Hey, what's going on, guys? This is CJ here at AwesomeCon, and I am here with.
Cerece Rennie Murphy.
So, I've seen some of the material that you put out and stuff. You've been kind of kicking around this game for how long? Like,
Oh my gosh, first book came out 2012. Yeah.
see, this is like what year two of 3BG that we were like kind of doing. Yeah, year two of our podcast that we are doing this. So, wow, you've been kicking around
Yeah.
almost close to 10 years.
Yeah.
How does that feel? I mean, with all the material that you have put out over the years up to now, like, how does that, like, what is the feeling of just still being able to, especially in a I'm not gonna say volatile market of comic books, but just to be able to still do that and you have consumers consuming the materials that you put out?
It feels fantastic. You know, it's such a privilege. When I first started, I didn't think I'd be a writer. So the idea that I just released my 10th book, it's just crazy because I never thought I would do that. So it just feels wonderful to still be in the game. Still, it feels wonderful to have stories to share. So, yeah. Excited.
So your new book, was it The Wolf Queen?
No,
Oh,
no.
it's-
My latest
oh,
book
okay,
is
latest.
Between Two Seas. It's
Okay.
a short story collection. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. The Wolf Queen came out 2019. You know, we're missing a year. So it's,
COVID kinda
yeah,
like
it's like
everything, so it's like, oh man, how long?
decade,
Yeah.
an hour. It doesn't really matter. It's yeah, whatever.
So I mean, can you tell people about like I guess the new short stories?
Oh, sure. So usually in between my series, I write short stories, and usually it's just one. But 2020 was a lot, and so I put together 4 short stories. And they're sci-fi, it's sort of genre bending. I have a sci-fi western, I have a murderous fairy, I have a father and son who discover the secret to like healing the world, and all kinds of different things all in one book. But it's really a celebration of just all that is beautiful, you know, in being black in the world.
So it's like an anthology series kind of that you were going for.
Except it's all me. Yep.
That works too. Like, 2020, obviously, COVID, it shut everything down. How did that work out for you, I guess, in terms of being able to craft like new material and stuff? Was it just, did that whole year kind of, I know for a lot of people that were writers and stuff, it kind of gave them an opportunity to like, all right, I can actually do some actual work and not be, I mean, how did that work out for you during that?
Oh man, you know, my writing became my refuge. I mean, it's where I poured my sadness, my joy, my anger. You know, for me, it was an answer to the question of sort of, what do I do with this awful moment? And how do I turn to my kids, and what do I tell them about how to be hopeful? And I just realized, you know, that my ancestors had already showed me the answer. We keep pushing forward. We keep creating excellence, being excellence, and building the road for the next generation. And when that answer came, when that shifted, you know, it was just a burst of creativity. I launched a virtual convention called AwesomeCon, and we did 2 conventions this year. You know, we launched with a mini sort of launch in October of 2020, and then came out strong in February and Juneteenth. I started writing the stories, and it was really about how do I create a platform for lifting black and brown voices. And that became my focus. And so I think it was a tough year emotionally, psychologically, but it also really focused me.
Juices flowing kind of thing. Was there a kind of a sense of nervousness? Because I think we saw like the advertisement for VirtuousCon. Was there a sense of nervousness like, oh man, how's this going to work out? Especially like in an online atmosphere of a convention, because obviously online is like, well, I don't know if I want to check it out and stuff. So was there like a sense of like, is it going to succeed or is it going to fail? I mean, how was it kind of your thought process going into that?
Nervousness doesn't even begin to describe paranoia, terror. I think I felt some terror. But, you know, I've been in this game a while, and I've failed plenty. So the idea that this might not work is not really like a detractor for me.
Oh.
That's true with everything. And I just felt like I really wanted to try it. What I saw in terms of virtual convention offerings was a lot of great panels and not a lot for vendors, not a lot for artists. You know, you could put your link up somewhere, but if links sold merchandise, we would all stay home. We would never go to conventions. So I really wanted to provide a space where fans could come and do what we do. They could interact with, they could meet the artists, they could buy directly from them, have the artists explain their work. And when we did the mini launch in October of 2020, It was just 3 hours. We did a panel and 2 hours of vending, but it worked. And so going into February, I knew that we had something that was really unique in terms of fans being able to actually interact with independent creators. And that was my focus. And then I got a team together and it blew up into what became, Black History Month Virtuous Con. But yeah, there's always, terror and fear when you're doing something new. But I don't know, I stay in that lane, so
Oh, okay.
I'm used to it by now.
I mean, is there a thing of, I guess, once things with everything with COVID and everything kind of settles down, do you see that parlaying that into something like people can actually physically go, or do you want to kind of keep this virtual thing going? Because it seems like the virtual thing, it does kind of give you that like intimacy aspect to it versus like, okay, we're physically here. I don't know if I'm gonna have enough time to talk to these people.
Right.
So are you going to kind of still kind of do both, or are you going to just keep one going and that's it?
Oh no, I want to keep it virtual because the barrier to entry for artists is almost zero. I think our booth fees like $40. It's 65 if you don't get the early bird special. And I love keeping that cost low. Plus, you don't have to print all the stuff and everything. All you have to do is, put on a shirt and sit in your living room and turn on your camera, and you can interact with and sell your work. So you don't have the upfront costs. But also, we get to engage with people all over the world. I mean, we had folks from New Zealand come to Virtuous Con, Haiti, folks who never would get a chance to interact with the artists that we had normally. So I'm really excited about that. And it's a unique space. We're not trying to compete with in-person conventions. This is we're at AwesomeCon, and that's a special experience, but the virtual experience can be special too. Plus, you get to have David Ajala and Anika Noni Rose at your convention because all they have to do is wake up in the morning and hop on the computer, which we would never be able to get if we were, a physical event.
10, 15 minutes at a
We only,
time.
that's right, that's right. So, we have we got amazing creators coming for Juneteenth. So there's just a lot of things that make it really special, and so I want to keep it virtual.
Do you do writing the crafting the stories that you actually craft? Do you feel yourself like actually competing with some of like the bigger platforms, obviously Marvel, DC, Image, or is it just kind of like, no, this is my lane, I have an audience, I'm going to stick with that and just kind of cultivate that?
Well, I haven't really gotten into comics or graphic novels yet,
Okay.
and I'm thinking about that, but I have so much respect for the medium, and it's not like you just sort of add some pictures to a book.
Yeah.
Like that's the recipe for getting it wrong. So that's a whole other discipline, and I plan to get there, but I've got to put some time and attention into learning that craft, which is very different from novel writing. But no, I don't feel, I don't know, for better or worse, I kind of live in a bubble. I'm doing what I'm doing. These stories feel like just an incredible gift that I want to share with the world. And it doesn't really motivate me to be looking to the left or the right. I'm trying to bring my voice, my art, my craft to this space. And yeah, that's kind of where I stay. That's where my focus is.
Yeah, because I was always curious about that because, like I said, novel writing and stuff, you always feel like, all right, but I have to compete with this group of people. And is there a need of trying to get those people, or like you said, you're just kind of in your bubble and you're like, well, I have my audience and they'll come, obviously.
No, as an independent creator, you're always trying to help people know who the heck you are.
Yeah.
That is the definition. Nobody knows who we are.
Yeah.
So, I come to conventions like this, and I'm always introducing my work to the widest audience that I can, with social media, with marketing, if I can figure it out, with conventions. So I'm always trying to introduce my work to as many people as possible, but that doesn't mean, like, you can buy this book and that book. Readers read all the books. I'm a reader, so I know. So I don't feel like, if you're gonna buy, El Penelope's book, you're not gonna buy my book, and she's with a big publisher. She's with a big publisher, so that means that she has a marketing team that's a lot bigger than mine. But I love her work, and I love my work. And so, I feel like it's really just about introducing my work to the audience. And then after that, people can decide what they want to do.
Makes sense and stuff, obviously, because it's never about, like, obviously, like you said, competing and stuff, but I was just kind of curious of, like, what's the overlap with the audience, if whether they actually
There's a lot of overlap. People come to sci-fi conventions and buy books from independent authors. They're avid readers to begin with. But they're coming to sci-fi and comic conventions to find things they can't find at Barnes and Noble. You know, for a long time, they were looking for representation, which was not coming from the big publishers. But if you're on the indie scene, you find a lot of independent creators who are creators of color because our stories weren't getting published. And so as a reader, yeah, you want to read Game of Thrones, but you're also looking for something with a protagonist that kind of looks like you, or, you know, has your experience. So I don't feel there is a lot of crossover, and that's how we know. And now, you know, big publishers are figuring this out. That's how we know there's a market for our work, because people come here by the thousands, by the tens, by the hundreds of thousands, you know, to find what we create. So, you know, the big publishers are just jumping on the bandwagon that we've always known was here. We just don't have the marketing team that they do.
Yeah. Lastly, you know, like I said, with music nowadays and stuff, like you don't really need a big label to like put your music out there with indie. Is it kind of the same function with like with novel writing, where it's like, well, I can just do this on my own, and obviously you got to pay for the printing and all that stuff, obviously.
It is. The problem is discovery, you know, getting your stuff out there, helping people. I think they said like there are 1 million ebooks or something. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of books are published, and so you're always trying to like, hey, you know, figure out a way to be like, here, I'm here. Get on the Amazon list, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, it's just, you just got to hustle. I mean, even if you're traditionally published, you got to hustle. If you're indie, you got to hustle some more.
Is it more like you have to be like have a big social media presence on top of that too, or is it kind of like less social media and more like, well, I guess social media is broad, but I guess social media in the sense of like Twitter and Facebook in terms of getting your product out there?
Well, some authors do that and they're really successful at it. And then other authors don't do that at all and they're really successful. I think it's about what's the lane that you can be authentic, engaging, and dynamic in. Some people are super engaging on social media, and so that works for them. Other people are not. I'm one of the people that's kind of when it comes to social media. But at a convention, I love engaging. And a lot of authors were all introverts, and they're like, there's no way I would be, I don't want to be in front of people, I don't want to be. I love that. So this is my lane. So I think it's about doing what you do, figuring out what you can do consistently and well, and then do that thing. But that's true in life.
Well, this has been a good time talking to you and stuff. It's been nice. And so, 'cause I think I've seen you at other conventions, but like, you know, busy with friends and stuff, and it's like, all right, I'll come back to it, and I never do.
Oh, where am I?
Yeah, so I've seen you at other conventions. 'Cause I think it was like way back in 2015. I think I had seen you. I think it was at Baltimore Comic Con. Yeah, it was Baltimore Comic Con. I seen you, so it was just kind of like, oh, we get a chance to talk to her. So it was nice talking to you, actually getting some more insight. So we'll see you guys later, and have fun at AwesomeCon. Peace.